Hello, good evening, and welcome to the 100th episode of the CantinaMX podcast. My name is John Jagu. Glad to have you with us. Glad to have had you with us for the previous 99 episodes of this show and its various incarnations. We've had the Cachirules podcast. We had the Dos a Cero podcast. We had a special Siete a Cero edition podcast once. And then we had CantinaMX. But we've had 100 of them. So we really do appreciate y'all that have been on this crazy ride with us, and hopefully we'll have quite a few more. As always, we have a distinguished panel of guests with us this evening. We're going to start. We're going to go from right to left on your country dial. We're going to start in Philadelphia this evening. And of course, if we're going to start in Philadelphia, then we have to drop the... And that is, of course, Ronnie de Luna, who joins us from El Guanaco restaurant in... Did I get that right?
No.
No,
It's okay.
What's y'all's restaurant? See, I feel bad now because I should know this. Or is it Guaco Loco?
No, that's the catering company that we got.
Catering company.
That's a catering company.
Well, what's the restaurant's name?
Guacamole.
It's just Guacamole?
Yeah. Yeah, we got two locations and
yeah. Do you have a location in Montgomery County?
No.
No. Well, was it too good for you, Montgomery County? You don't like the good people.
Eventually go into the burbs. Outside Philadelphia.
All right, Ronnie, great to have you with us. Your America looking good. As if anyone had a doubt. And they had a great game last night with Tigres. Very entertaining.
They did, John, but and I told you guys that I don't see them being champions this semester, but I do like I like how they're being dynamic. But this game against Tigres, it exposed a couple things that I'm worried about.
Yeah. How much exposure did they have, Ron?
You still want to show me your cucumber?
Enough that something that could bite them, in a crucial game. I still didn't like I didn't really like the defense, and for some reason it just seemed like the back in the midfield were getting stuck at times trying to get the ball out. I know that man per man, I think that right now that Tigres has a better team. Obviously, that the players have been together a little bit longer. But I do like. I didn't think that that America would be this far under Miguel El Piojo. But hopefully, if they keep going at the rate that they're going, and they played what they played against Pachuca, they played against Lobos, who at the time was playing really well, and they played also Tigres. So I think obviously they're going to make the playoffs. I'm hoping that they can reach at least the semis.
Oh, dude, I think seriously, they're if they made the finals, I don't think anybody would be shocked. So they have a good team, they're playing well, and they're going to get and they can only get better. Sure. Provided everybody stays around for the whole season.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Injuries.
Yeah.
And speaking of injuries, I don't Oribe, obviously he left the game.
Right.
And
do you think that was a FIFA injury?
Don't know.
Because apparently he's only out for 10 days. How convenient.
Yeah. He wouldn't be the first Mexican player to have FIFA.
He got a preliminary bout of the FIFA virus.
And Brody had a couple, and also El Doctor from TV Azteca. Jesus.
Oh, Luis Garcia.
Luis Garcia. In fact, he was known for those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good to have you on, Ronnie.
Thank you, guys.
As always, and then we're going to go further west. Normally, we'd talk to Beto Campa, but he's not going to join us this evening, or at least not at the beginning. But hopefully, he'll join us a little later. But I think if I have my geography right, I think that the next person on our list would probably be Daniel Preciado. Is that right, Dan? Are you a little east of LA where you are?
I am technically east, yes, southeast.
Daniel Preciado joins us from Escondido in California.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be here again.
Yeah. Daniel, you
managed a point.
You now do they when things go bad, are they furching it up? And when things go good, did he furch it out?
I think he's just forging it up.
Okay.
I think the time, the patience with him and Chepo are probably going to start waning soon. I'm
Really?
surprised that. Well,
Yeah, but all they have to do is go on a 3-game win streak, and they'll be like, in first place.
yeah. I'm talking more just if the results continue as they have been, then we got to sweat relegation the following season. So they're only I think about 7 points, 8 points clear right now.
Oof. Yeah, we're going to talk about
So
relegation
so
here
so
in a
so,
little
so
bit. But,
they burned right through their cushion that they had.
Right. So
And this last game was pretty frustrating. I mean, rare occasion I actually watched. I did think they created enough chances to win, but
now how dare you watch a soccer game and then talk about it on the CantinaMX podcast?
I know it's not really according to form.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I hope someone didn't take you out.
No. That wasn't me. I promise.
Okay.
But yeah, it was another disappointing performance, despite the chances that they had to convert, and then Fulch with that. It's kind of hard to miss it altogether, and to miss it wide.
Yeah.
A penalty. That's.
Yeah, he made the easy part hard.
You kind of like just accept that it's maybe going to be one of those types of seasons.
Well, that's something we'll have to talk about a little bit later, you and me both. But they have people.
Joel is getting I believe he's
Turn
probably
around,
trying
but
to get a strawberry
they
shortcake.
don't. Then get. I just would like to see if Furch is going to be this bad, then why not throw Cisneros in and see what he can. Just give him a little taste.
It can't be worse, right?
Yeah, give him a little taste. So
yeah, that's been like one of the disappointing things too. Like, despite the fact it's like they're not performing well, but and you figure, all right, well, at least the kids are getting some time, but they're not actually. Not all of them are getting minutes. So yeah, it's just been disappointing season thus far, and I don't think we're gonna make the playoffs at this point.
Don't be such a negative, Nelly. As my next guest would say, don't lose faith in Chepo. Is that right, Joel Aceves, who joins us from South Los Angeles?
That is correct, John. But I thought by now that Dan would be a Chepo believer.
Chepista.
Well,
I'm not an anti-Chepo. I'm not anti-Chepo, but I mean, you can't ignore the regression that the team has had this season.
Your pH balance in Chepo is moving closer to the 7 than it is to the edges.
Well, I think some of the things that I've noticed is that some of the players aren't performing up to the level they're capable of. Basically, first Izquierdos is injured, and that's a big loss to them.
That's huge. Because he also helps on offense too.
Yeah, and he's
quite a few goals.
And he's the team captain. He's a dude that rallies the troops.
And how has Chaton done in his because that is who's replacing Izquierdos right now, isn't it Chaton?
He didn't play yesterday.
He did not.
They went with I believe
somebody else.
De Buen.
Yeah.
Oh, but I thought Chaton was playing as a central.
He was. I don't know if it was an injury thing or a minutes, like kind of rotations type of thing, or just trying to play someone different.
Well, De Buen is, as far as midfielders go, I think has a little bit more to offer in that. So, hopefully Chaton will get it together, man. He needs to. We need
the team
Chaton
in general needs to get it together.
Yeah. Now, Joel, I was hoping that I would get to hit you with a
Well, I'm
but not
I'm
yet.
still on my
We're,
triple rant. Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please continue.
or apologizing. I'm still apologizing
Oh,
for
there's going to be a lot of
Santos.
apologies going on tonight, I'm sure.
No, I feel like if you add to Izquierdos, I think Furch hasn't been able to play as as good as he's demonstrated, and some of the goals he's missed. It's incredible that Um, and Di Giannini, I was watching him play, and that's another guy that would just sometimes just some of the decisions he would make, you know. And the Uruguayo guy, Rodriguez, was his name?
I think he's actually quite good. He's someone that I think a lot oftentimes he ends up being like the only guy trying. It seems like
Yeah, but
he may try to bite off more than he can chew at times.
yeah.
Some of his decision making could be a little bit questionable, but I don't think he's the issue.
So no, yeah, but he should be like a starter. He's usually comes off the bench, and I was doing some research, and some of the fans are blaming the president, the club president, saying that he hasn't opened up the coin purse, that he's kept the team, the team's depth is not very deep, so when they miss players, it hurts them.
Now, Joel, I'm going to have to interrupt you
Yes.
because
It's time for Ronnie's.
that's not what I was going to do. Sorry about that, Ron. But we do have joining us from Mexico City. We do have our special guest with us this evening. So we do want to thank this gentleman who writes for FIFA.com, writes for Medio Tiempo, is a long-suffering Jets fan, and is with us this evening, of course, talking about
Camelot.
Oh, Martin del Palacio joins us. Martin, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. How about you guys? Yeah. Did you really have to say about my Jets fandom? Really?
Yes, I did. I had to mention the Jets.
This year, particularly this year.
It's going to be rough for you now. Now, Martin, I know that we'll talk about the Jets, but you're obviously a man of impeccable taste and sound judgment when it comes to soccer. Because one of the things that we do like to ask our guests when they came on is how did the sorting hat pick the team for you? So how did the sorting hat pick Pumas for you?
Okay, well, it's an interesting story, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna lose a lot of respect after you hear it. The thing is, growing up, I had no football role models. My parents didn't care about football at all. My brother liked baseball, and like my uncle, who came in the picture later on, he was a former Necaxa player, so he could have been. But at the moment I chose my team, he wasn't there. He met my aunt later on. So my team, my brother, who was a baseball player, baseball fan, decided to give football a shot, and he was playing in a team called Tecos. So I decided that Tecos was going to be my team, but who actually?
As in Tecolotes, from Zapopan?
As in Tecolotes, from Zapopan. Yeah. So after a while, like this happened when I was like 6. When I was 12, I realized that you cannot be a Tecos fan. Like I'm not living in Mexico City, so yeah, I know. So I decided to become. As you might imagine, I have an interesting masochistic side, being a Jets fan. So I decided to follow the team that went up from a second division that season, and turned out to be Veracruz. So for the next 6 years, I was a Veracruz fan.
Might have to reserve my judgment on the man with impeccable taste. So you've gone Tecos and then Veracruz.
Yeah, that was terrible. But that I'm like the good wines. I
Did you throw Puebla in there? Did you try Puebla out for a little bit?
I'm waiting for Dorados.
I wanted to root for Venados Yucatan. The season Veracruz went out, but in the end, Veracruz won the final, which was not even Veracruz. It was Potros Neza, like the Atlante feeder team. But then they sold the franchise and became Veracruz. So whatever. So then Veracruz went back down, and I had no way of following the team. And a friend of mine, Roberto Velázquez, who's now the director of El Financiero TV, he's a huge Pumas fan, and he started telling me like, you have to come to the stadium with me. Yeah, I have a ticket for you. So I well, in the end I accepted, obviously, and I started to go to Seoul every weekend, and that it was the time that the famous bicampeonato side was starting. It was the beginning of the 21st century, and it was a team that nobody really remembers because we all know what happened with Hugo and all that. But since the beginning, since 2001, they were pretty good. They were pretty entertaining. They won. They qualified to the Liguilla a few times. They never won. They were always like a bit of Yamerito until 2004. But they were a pretty entertaining team to root for. And then, more or less at the same time, I started to work in Canal 40, and I started to cover the team. And I got along very well with Joaquin Beltran and Kikín Fonseca, which when Kikín arrived to Pumas, nobody knew who he was. He had played 10 games at La Piedad, and he arrived because his promoter was in touch with Hugo's promoter, and he said like, come on, let's give this kid a chance. Like, he's not very good, but like we need him to play. So San said, okay, bring him on, and then Kikín became like the Pumas idol at the moment. So I developed my Pumas taste, but in to make it better for me, it's been already 20 some years, and I'm still a very much a Pumas fan, and suffering with the bad times now, as they're now.
So this gentleman says you got to come to the games, but it was ultimately Kikín that gave you the vampire bite and fully turned you into a Pumas fan.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Look, if we're talking about the sorting hat, I got Slytherin and Hufflepuff before getting to Gryffindor. Let's say it this way.
Well, yeah, there was a few other stops along the way.
Martin, how you doing, Ronnie? Were you a Tecos fan when they won in the early '90s?
No.
Okay,
no,
good.
I wasn't.
Good. Because I didn't want you. I didn't want to think like, oh man, Martin's a fair weather fan. You know, he's following Tecos when they won the championship with Milton and all those players. You know, the Brazilian player.
No, I have to say that Donizete, Goncalves.
Yeah,
I have to say that I celebrated the semi-final victory against America. I was in the stadium, but because it was against America, it was great. Like they won 3-2 in the Azteca. They had lost 2-1 the first leg in Zapopan, and then they went to the second, won 3-2, and went through by the away goals rule, and it was pretty cool. It was the last goal, like Edson Suarix scored the last goal in the 85th minute. It was pretty fun to watch. But no, at that point I was a Veracruz fan. I wasn't enjoying life very much.
So were you a Veracruz fan when like all the players from America went over there, like Antonio Carlos Santos and
didn't Cuauhtemoc go over there at that point?
No, but that was in 2005, 2004. No, that was in the late '80s, early '90s when you had like the goalkeeper Adrian Chavez that also went to Veracruz, and you had Antonio.
Well, no, hasn't Veracruz been a Televisa proxy team? I mean, isn't that where they're like all their, it's like.
No, never. No. What happened was Veracruz was a TV Azteca team.
Right, exactly.
It was owned by TV Azteca, and the season you're talking about is 94-95.
Right.
Yeah, Antonio Carlos Santos arrived, but he was the only ex-Americanista. The rest were the stars of that team were Niver Arboleda, a Colombian, Antonio Apud, el Turco. The goalkeeper was Rios, who was amazing. Like he was the best keeper in Mexico. You can tell me about Campos, whatever, and Campos is a former Pumas player, but I've seen videos of both of them in the 90s, and I can tell you Rios was way better. He was often overlooked because he wasn't Campos, but he was so good. And I'm trying to remember who was the central defender, but yeah, they reached the semifinals. They lost to Celaya, to the Buitre Celaya, in a game that they lost 5-1 with 4 goals by Richard Zambrano that season.
Well, Martina, I'm sure you know this, but had Bora stayed for France '98, Rios would have been the starting keeper.
Yeah, he
If
would have.
you,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. The thing is, like, I don't know if you remember, Bora for sure doesn't remember. Well, or he does, but he wants to change his story because Bora being Bora, Bora. But that Bora team wasn't very good. Like he kept on playing Sage, Hermosillo, and all the faded stars. He always says that yeah. I brought Luis Hernandez and Cuauhtemoc Blanco to the national team, but yeah, he did indeed. But to a Copa America in which he decided to field the B side, and then for the qualifiers he again like left those players home and took Sage and Hermosillo. So no, I'm actually quite happy about La Puente being the coach in '98. But yeah, it's true that Bora's keeper was Rios.
I've always told people that with La Puente, it's funny for his they've always dubbed him as being very defensive, but out of all the Mexican teams that have gone to the World Cup, his team has scored the most goals.
But
And
that team was amazing. I don't know if you remember, but
it was.
yeah, they played 4-3-3 with three pure center forwards. They played with Blanco, Hernandez, and Palencia, and then he brought on every match. He brought on Pelaez and Arellano at halftime. I've never seen something like that for Mexico or for anyone else. Like
But Martin,
it was
that's
so
making everybody
offensive, yeah.
sad. Making everybody sad. But now, Martina, you're in Mexico right now, correct? So you're in Mexico City.
Yeah,
As we
I mean, no,
speak.
I'm in Tulum. I'm in Tulum right
You're
now.
in Tulum. Okay, but you're a native Chilango like me.
Yeah.
And did you go to Colegio Alemán? Is that where you were educated?
No, Colegio Madrid.
Colegio Madrid. Okay. I went
Yeah,
to I went to Green Gates, but there was big news that Pumas had this week. That they said no más to Paco Palencia, and now it looks like it's going to be Sergio Ojea that's coming in. As a Pumas fan, how do you and someone who has covered the team before? I mean, how can you not just see these massive, huge red alarm bells going off for Pumas right now?
Well, I think it's good news. I like they. I am very much a man of processes. I like processes being played on. I'm sure we're going to talk about Osorio. And people ask me why I wanted Palencia out if I want to keep Osorio. And the reason is that I saw when I saw Pumas, I saw so many basic problems with the team. Like they tried to play a pressing game, but nobody knew where to press. It was ridiculous. Like it seemed maybe there was a method to the madness, but they seemed to press wherever, and you saw these huge gaps in midfield all the time that were exploited by the opposing teams. Then the side backs never knew what to do. I mean, we have terrible side backs. Like Van Ranking and Mendoza are both awful. But if you don't tell them exactly what to do, they're going to be even worse. And so sometimes they pressed, sometimes they stayed back. They were they were completely clueless.
So
Every
if I
match.
could paraphrase, then it sounds like that they weren't very well coached.
That's the thing. And it makes sense because Palencia was the coach of an under 18 side, like under 18 side of a third division club in Spain before coming to Pumas. So yeah, I'm happy that we had a young Mexican coach that played in the team and knew the philosophy. But that's not all. And obviously he didn't have the knowledge yet. Like he needed to have more preparation, I think. And you could tell. Like I can't believe a team that has Nico Castillo can play the way Pumas play because after Guignac, I think he's the best player in the Mexican league now. And Pumas, the only reason why Pumas have been mildly competitive these last two seasons is because of him. But otherwise, the team looked like a mess and played like a mess. Hello?
What do you think? You wouldn't attribute any of it to the bad planning as far as replacing what is it, Veron?
No, I don't think the problem lies on the central defense. I like I like Quintana a lot. I think he has a lot of potential. Obviously, Alcoba that Alcoba didn't play last match was was unfortunate because Toño Garcia is not very good. No, I think most of the problem. Well, there are a couple of problems. Then the wings, both in defense and in midfield, are have been the main problem of the team. Like, and nobody remembers this, but Puma's downfall is well started when Pablo Barrera got injured, like properly injured, because he had been so good since he returned to the team, and they haven't found a way to replace him. Now we have El Avión Calderon, who has looked terrible since he arrived to the team, and on the other side, Gallardo was good when he was playing as a winger, but then Palencia started to play him as a left back, mostly because Mendoza is so bad, and and then obviously bringing in Guerron and who has been so bad, and Formica, who hasn't played, instead of Britos, who in my opinion was the best Pumas foreigner after Castillo, didn't make much sense, and mostly not now that Palencia is out. And the reason why Britos left was because he couldn't get along with him. So it's been a bit of a mess in terms of planning, but I don't think the central defense is the main reason.
And the worst part of it, Martin, is that I know it's not going to happen this year, but if Pumas strings together a couple of very mediocre seasons, they're next year are going to have. So which is why if they were going to stem the tide, they had to do it as quickly as possible. So certainly another reason. Another reason that Pumas is not doing is that this is, aside from Verón, this is the first season since you became a fan that there's no Picolín on the team. I mean, that has to really weigh as well. I'm actually being serious.
It's not the first season, but it hurts. It hurts a lot. Like I still have this void in my chest where my heart used to be.
Yeah. I mean, every time I see one of the call-up lists and I don't see Picolin's name on there, it makes me really mad. Got mad again today.
I know. Now,
you shouldn't laugh, Ronnie. I mean, as a neutral fan of the Mexican football in general, I personally really miss Picolines.
No, I'm actually going to ask Martinez, how much do you think the Patronato, the direction of the Patronato? Because I mean, John and the guys, we talk. It seems like Pumas has gone away from their bread and butter of using the cantera, using the youth academies, and it seems like they haven't really done anything, produce any really good players in the last 10 years.
I mean, they haven't indeed, but. I don't think it has to do with this administration in that sense, because if you see, for example, not this match but the previous match, Pumas started with 7 canteranos. Yeah, admittedly they weren't very good, but it was 7 canteranos in the end. I think Figueroa, the one who's playing right winger, he has a lot of potential. He's 18 years old. Obviously, he's not the finished product, but you can see the talent there. I like Jaques a lot, the central defender that is now on the bench because he's too raw, but he has a lot of potential as well. You have Quintana, who's also good. Like there are a few players, but yeah, of course it's not the same as it was before, and I think it's because they didn't understand that there was a lot more competition now. Like the best Mexican talent and Mexican American talent, which is something very important, are going to Pachuca, are going to Chivas, are going to Tigres. They're not going to Pumas. Like before, every good Mexican player dreamt of playing with Pumas because that was the team that gave youngsters a chance. Now that's not the case anymore. So Pumas are left behind. Yeah.
But that's where I'm going to, because you mentioned Pachuca, you mentioned Tigres. Now I've been saying that that Liga MX is going to become pretty soon a billionaires club. Because Pachuca, they have Carlos Slim money. They have with Grupo Carso and the Grupo Pachuca, and obviously and then you have
they're gonna leave.
What's
Slim's gonna leave Pachuca in the next few months. That's over.
Well, he has to when he buys Chivas.
But are they going to get rid of Leon as well? I don't think they will.
Both, yeah, both.
I know what they said, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I mean,
The thing is the partnership between Slim and the Martinez family has become really strained because Slim and well, I forgot the
So
name. What
now
the hell?
he's definitely buying
Elias
Chivas.
Ayub, Elias Ayub
So,
wanted to do some things, and the Martinez didn't let them. So no, that thing is going
are
to
you
be announced soon.
are you saying that Televisa is basically Cersei Lannister, just conniving everybody? That was your, no, but going back to that, it's just it seems like back in the day, Carlos Slim, he was part. If I'm not mistaken, he was part of the patronato for Pumas, correct? And
More or less,
and
yeah.
and you also, you had Telmex money there, and you also had Banamex money. And from my understanding, Banamex, the people like the big shareholders from Banamex don't contribute as much. So I mean, do you think that in the future Pumas may be able to struggle because they're not going to have those big, FEMSA, Cemex, Televisa, type of backing?
I mean, they haven't had in the last few years, and still they managed to get competitive players. Like I was quite surprised by the fact that they managed to sign Marcelo Diaz. Like that's a player that I never expected to go to Pumas. Like they're already getting Castillo was good enough, and now getting Diaz was like, how? Where did that come from? Really? Because where did I know that this directiva inherited a huge amount of debt from the previous one, and that's the reason why they had to sell Sosa. And in the end, Sosa paid the debt. Essentially, he paid off the debt because those $7 million was more or less what Pumas owed. But obviously, they didn't have the money, and they got it from somewhere. From where, I have no clue really. But they have managed to get the money because Castillo wasn't cheap.
When did they sign their TV contract? Because they always go on spend Pumas like.
Yeah, I know what you're referring to, like the
games to coincide with
Adelanto
when they
that
signed their TV contract.
Yeah, it's
I'm saying I'm serious.
Wait, I have a question for Martin.
Yeah.
Do you think Slim's staying in the? Like, what do you think is Slim's next move?
I think he's leaving football altogether. I think he got tired of it.
Didn't he just get a TV station though? Claro.
Yeah. I mean, he might buy teams' broadcast rights, but I don't think he's going to stay in football in terms of owning a club. From what I heard, like I haven't spoken to anyone from their group, but I've heard from different sources that they got fed up with football and with the low blows. And like for a guy that has worked in almost every conceivable industry in Mexico, like being tired of the low blows means that Mexican football is a complicated place to try to do
maneuver. Yeah. Do you think that in the near future, do you think you're going to start seeing foreign investments, and not necessarily from the U.S., but having foreign ownership of Liga MX teams?
That would be interesting. Yeah, can you imagine like a sheikh coming to I don't know, to Lobos Buap and ending up buying? I'm not like. I was going to say Ronaldinho, but not anymore. Like Neymar when he's 35.
I mean, I can imagine, and I do, and the guys here they can tell you that I think it's going to happen. But I, for one, I wouldn't want Liga MX to be, like the Premier League where you just have a who's who of billionaires and just use the clubs as a, as an ego, a boost. Now that's just me, but I do have a feeling that in the near future, maybe 10 years down the line, you'll have, foreign ownership, and not necessarily, and not so much from like, Mexican Americans or even Americans, but I think across the pond.
But to be honest, I don't see it like quite probably, because football in Mexico is not a business per se, but it's a side business. Like it's an excuse to make better business. What do I mean? Like Jesus Martinez was a nobody when he got Pachuca, and now he's a very respected businessman. Jorge Vergara had money, but he was nobody also. Like nobody knew who Jorge Vergara was, even if he was the executive producer of Gael Garcia and Diego Luna.
Yeah,
but,
But
I'm gonna throw Higuera into that list.
Can I ask you something? Prior to Jorge Vergara, I had never even seen the product OmniLife. It's like
It's a fancy scheme, dude.
it's like I've never seen it. I've never seen it. I was like, who the hell is this guy? But
I
more.
actually wrong.
Yeah. What's up?
I don't know. I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. The, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay.
I was listening to
Barcelona
you.
normally. You live in Barcelona. Do you get to watch Liga MX games on Eurosport in Barcelona, or do you have to watch Pirata to watch
No,
the game?
no, yeah, I had to. Uh, I,
You have to
well,
find. You have to find me.
yeah, I have to find streams.
Does
Yeah.
Univision Deportes app work over there?
Nothing.
No,
Nothing. You have
nothing.
to watch to
So
like that.
what?
So sometimes,
What can Liga
yeah.
MX?
Sorry.
I think John fell off.
I think
I'm
John's
here,
cutting
yeah.
out a little bit.
Okay.
Oh,
I
speak,
think. Yeah.
sorry about the no. I actually wanted to ask you something because I know that you live in Europe and stuff like that. And do you have the community card yet? Or are you a citizen over there yet, or not?
Yeah. I have the passport now.
Now, do you the move that Memo made to Belgium? Do you think that was smart, or do you think that was bad? For the sake of getting of what's that?
I don't think it was smart at all in general. Like the thing is, they were like what they wanted. Like I spoke to his people when it happened, and what they wanted was first to get him out of the limelight. Like everybody was like focusing on him, and that wasn't very good. Second, being in a team that could actually win something, like even if it was the Belgian league. From what I've seen in the last three matches they've played, like, they're not gonna win the Belgian league. But yeah, well, at least that they didn't get thrashed every weekend. That was the second, and the third, that to be in a team where he would play, like no matter what, he would be a starter. So well, that was the idea. They chose the Belgian league, which is not as bad as people think. It's a decent league. It's the eighth league in the world by. Which is the best scouting tool there is. So it's not that bad, but yeah, like seriously, I would have expected him to play somewhere else, somewhere better.
Like the MLS. Hey, Martin, this is Albert.
Yeah, of course.
This is Albert Campo. I don't know if you guys have, I just joined just a minute ago, but I don't know if you guys have brought up this topic, but I was wondering your opinion on Carlos Vela and Jonathan Dos Santos going to MLS, and how you think MLS is going to be as a league in the future for Mexicans.
Well, the reasons were different from for both of them. In the case of Vela, we all know that that football has never been his priority, and that his dream was to play in a place where he could watch the best basketball there is. So that's why he chose LA.
Yeah, the stadium
on the Lakers to recover.
But the joke is on
stadium's
him.
actually 5 minutes from.
But the joke's on him because there is no good basketball in LA right now.
No,
easy
he's
there.
banking on the
Easy.
Yeah.
There's still visiting teams, John.
That's true. That's true.
And the Lakers are the Lakers, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Dude, the Lakers haven't been the Lakers in 15 years.
What are you talking about? I'm just saying. Anyways, not to make this a basketball show,
there's still 2 basketball teams, so he gets to see, 2 games, even 4 games a week live.
And where's the stadium located in Los Angeles?
With a lot more,
five minutes away, dude, from the new Los Angeles Football Club. He could even walk.
He could easily jog it.
Yeah.
He could easily jog it.
Yeah, well, but that's why Carlos Vela went there, and seriously speaking, basketball is a reason, but also like having a good lifestyle has been a much more important thing for him than actually playing competitive football, and that's why he stayed in San Sebastian, where everybody loved him, and he could do whatever he wanted it, as long as he played well. He was also out of the limelight, like nobody cared about his personal life because everybody loved him. So yeah, it made more sense. It's a bit of a shame he's gonna go there 6 months before the World Cup, because that's for sure going to affect his performance. In the case of Jonathan, I know that Jonathan didn't want to go so soon to the MLS, but the pressure from his dad was too big. Like the dad, who's a huge father figure in that family, wanted the whole family to live together and to be together, and Los Angeles was the place they chose. So in the end, they got Jonah to accept, but he wanted to stay one more year in Europe. I think it's a pity, but that's
How
what it was.
incredibly sad.
Do you know the
Jeez.
relationship between Cicinho and America? Do you know if it's still good, or is it pretty bad?
I think there's no real relationship. Like
Okay.
it's not. Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's a factor, and I don't think he was ever close. Like Jonah was ever close to play with America. America made an offer, and but Jonah was never going to accept it, because the whole reason, reason why he left Europe was to live to have the whole family together in LA. Like, it would have made any sense to go to Mexico City. Like why?
Do you see this as becoming like a trend for future players that are playing in Europe, like Herrera and maybe in Guardado, that they might end up coming to MLS, or are these players eventually going to come back to Mexico, Liga MX?
I think it might happen, but not so young. I think Guardado will end up in the MLS in a couple of years, or next year, but Guardado will be already 31, 32, and obviously physically Guardado is not going to be a European elite player for very long. So yeah, I see that. But 28, 29-year-old players, I don't think so. The thing is that Dos Santos and Vela, the Dos Santos brothers and Vela, have very particular backgrounds, and that's why they went to MLS so soon. But I don't see young players going. Like, for example, they made... I don't remember which team, but made a big offer for Chicharito, but Chicharito never even thought about it, because he wanted to stay in Europe. And that's why he chose West Ham, which is not a big club in Europe, but it's he'll play. The idea was to play in the Premier League, and he, like, being as competitive as he is, he never really entertained the idea of going to the MLS. However, when he's 32, after this World Cup, after his contract with West Ham runs out, yeah, that's a possibility, because, well, that's mostly the way it is with leagues that are not in the in the center of the football world, which is Europe.
Do you see actual improvements from the players that go to Europe and play in Europe? Do you see them become better?
I think so. I think it's very important for players to go there.
But in what regards do you see them becoming better football players?
They're way faster. That's the thing. They play way faster. They think faster. They play faster. They execute faster. That's something that people in Mexico don't understand. They don't see how different the speed of the game is in Europe than in Mexico. Like, we think, yeah, but Liga MX is at the same level as the Spanish league, except for Barcelona and Real Madrid, and it's true. Like, technically, Liga MX teams are on the same level as, let's say, Betis or I don't know, Getafe. But in terms of speed, the difference is striking. Like, Mexico, maybe because of the weather, maybe because of
I was about to say that, though. That also could factor in.
Yeah, weather and elevation for sure.
But the point that I'm going to is I'm still not sold. I'm still not sold that Europe, that having 20, 30, 40 players all of a sudden is going to make the team, Mexico, the national team,
I think the more pertinent question, though, Ronnie, I guess to Martin is, well, if it's making them better, do you think it ultimately benefits the national team?
And that's where
from a function standpoint.
That's where I'm trying to go, because, I personally don't see. If you think about it, the last three World Cups have been won by European teams. Most of their players have played in their domestic leagues. They don't really need to venture. An Englishman doesn't need to venture out into out to another league, same as a Spaniard or same as a German, because they have very competitive leagues. Now it seems like like the Argentinas, the Brazils, and stuff like that, and the Uruguays, they're at the you know it seems like their national teams, they cannot get organized because they're basically so, I guess, accustomed to the European model and European calendar and stuff like that. And I mean, with like La Volpe had most just about every player in Mexico. He was able to get them. He would see them once or twice a month. Away from their clubs. And as much as I didn't like La Volpe, I do credit him that he had a team and he had a system. Some of these, it seems like to me, even the big teams, like the elite teams, like Argentina and Brazil, sometimes you don't see that system in there because their players, their national team coaches they don't get to see them that often. I mean, it just seems like I'm still not sold on that Europe's the answer.
Okay, I have several points
Yeah.
on what you said. First of all, you're talking about a team that finished second in the last World Cup, Argentina, and a team that finished fourth in the previous World Cup, as Uruguay. Like, there are okay, Argentina had Messi and all that, but there are teams that are actually performing, and Uruguay obviously overperformed their usual standard in 2010. Like they finished fourth, and they could have very well finished third, and they lost that semifinal with Holland 3-2. So they could have reached the final, and that's one part. Like if we finish fourth in a World Cup, it will be national holiday. Like we will, they will make Guillermo del Toro will make a documentary of the national team.
But my point is Uruguay. I understand that they finished. They had a good showing in South Africa. But when was it really the last time they had a really good showing in the World Cup where they were third or fourth? Same as Argentina. Same as Argentina. Granted they were finalists.
Well, Ronnie, I think Brazil's showing signs that, and they're calling up guys from China, and they're doing great in qualifying, man.
Yeah, well, let's not forget that Brazil has 2,000 players playing abroad, and Mexico has 20.
Yeah,
well,
let's move on. Let's move on to the next point that I wanted to touch about La Volpe. Let's remember how shit the team was in the World Cup. Like everybody remembers that game against Argentina, but the group phase was terrible. Like we beat Iran, which was the last place in that World Cup. Then we drew to Angola, and we lost to Portugal this side. Like, yeah, it's true that Mexico had a system, but very good one. And yeah, the team peaked on the 2005 Confederations Cup, and yeah, we beat Brazil. But let's remember that we finished fourth in that Confederations Cup, losing to Germany B side that was down one man. Like we lost to a team that was down one man, 4-3, and they weren't even playing all the starters. There's a tendency in Mexico to somehow romanticize that La Volpe team, but it wasn't very good. They were thrashed in the Copa America by Brazil 4-0.
Yeah, I remember.
It wasn't that good.
Now the guys can tell you I wasn't a fan of La Volpe, but I do. At least I give him the credit that he tried to. My point was that he had time to work with his players. I still don't think that he took the best players, but I mean that's another conversation. I still don't think he should have taken other players, perhaps both, even Cuauhtemoc or other, but I just what other points were you trying to make that the players need to be in Europe as opposed to
And then for me the most important thing, and I was planning to reach this point because I knew that's what you meant, is that the football in 2006 was very different from football now, and that's the thing. Like in 2006 and in '98 before that, you could still afford to have a team in your local league, like that based on the local league players and even the field, by preparing more often. Something that I don't think can happen now because every national team in the world have players in Europe, and that's mostly the thing. Like now you're playing if, with the exception maybe of Chile, that 50% of their team somehow play in the Liga MX, but the 3 or 4 players who play in Europe are extremely good. The rest of the top national teams they all play in Europe. Like 95% of the players are in Europe, and I think that's the problem with Mexico. Not that that there are some players in Europe but that we don't have enough. If Mexico had 40, 50 players in Europe, it would be different because Osorio or whomever could actually choose the best ones. The thing now is that we have 13 or 12, uh, which, like, if someone like Layun uh, like starts underperforming, we have no one else. Like now we have a serious problem with Layun not being in the national team, and yeah, everyone is trashing Osorio because he didn't call side backs, and I agree in a way that he should have. But if you see the level of the players in Liga MX in that position, you want to cry. Like, seriously, Aris Hernandez, yeah, like, what the hell? Like, they are very bad. Like, if you see, like, Aguilar is the only decent one, and he's just coming back from an injury, and he doesn't get along very well with Osorio. Like, really, we don't have enough players. Like, what we should aim for is to export 40, 50 players that are between 19 and 21, and some will thrive and some will fail. But there'll be a point in which we'll have a player or a few players in Barcelona or Real Madrid, like Chile has. Like, you see Chile, and yeah, they have the Marcelo Diaz of the world, the Edson Puig that play in Mexico, but they have Vidal, they have Alexis, they have Bravo. We're not even close to have players of that caliber. Before the Copa America, in which the famous set 7-0, I remember having tweeted were favorites. Of course, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect the result, but I tweeted that Chile were favorite because they had better players. And people were complaining because they were saying, like, no, they play in Liga MX and we have more players in Europe. Yeah, we have more players in Europe, but we don't have players in those leagues. And that's what we should aim for. And, like, leaving the players in Liga MX is not going to help that. Like, I'm pretty happy that
I think
Chucky Lozano moved to PSV, and because that league is very good for him, and that increases the chances of a top team um, actually noticing him if he didn't sign for Manchester City, which is a possibility. But if he did not, if Chucky does really well in Holland, he's going to go to a top club in Europe. If he does well for Pachuca again, nobody like the best he can get is PSV. Like, other than Chicharito, which Mexican player has been signed directly from Liga MX to a top club in Europe?
just Hugo.
Well, Rafa also when he went to Monaco. I
Yeah,
consider Monaco a
he went
top
to
club.
Monaco, but Monaco was like they became French champions for the first time in like 20 years when he arrived.
Yeah,
Like, it wasn't a top team. There
There
were
was.
like middle tier teams in general.
Yeah,
Even
but
Atletico when Hugo
people knew
Sanchez
who they were.
arrived there.
People knew
Uh,
who Monaco was. Good Lord, I can't speak.
Yeah,
Now,
but
Martin.
no Manchester United though. I think
So
that's what
yeah,
his
But
point
but
is.
here's the thing, then. I mean, if Mexico has all these players going abroad, what of Liga MX?
yeah, well, that's a fair point. I think
What
we should learn to differentiate between the league and the national team, because that's what owners do.
but,
Like, their product by bringing all these foreigners. I mean, it would be great to have more Mexican players, but it's not the way it's working. We should see it that way. And
so Martin, where do you think those Mexican players should go then? If they're not going to get opportunities in Liga MX, but they're good enough to play, and they're say 19, 20, 21 years old, maybe. Well, what other league would you recommend for them to try out?
well, it sounds bad, but none. Like, the thing is, if they're not good enough to make it in Liga MX, they're not good enough to make it in Europe. Like, I don't
Well, I'm
think
not talking about
the
Europe.
best. No, I know, but like, if we send a player to Colombia, he's not going to really improve. Like, I think that the thing with I don't like the 10-8 rule. Seriously, I think it's a problem, and it limits the opportunities of for Mexican players. But also, I understand that having all these foreigners forces Mexican youngsters to actually of their game, and the ones that cannot make it through in Liga MX, they're not going to be good enough to play anywhere and to be national team uh, quality players. So So I think what players like what teams should do is to focus on youth training, on improving the quality of the coaching, which is pretty bad, and to develop better players. Pachuca understood it, and they have Roberto de la Rosa. Well, they still have Guti. There's another guy that I forgot the name now, but it's another exciting Pachuca winger. Like they understood that they needed to prepare their young players better, and they would make money out of it, and they will have a good core of Mexican players. I remember I went to Pachuca to the club like 2 years ago, and I remember they had signed Hans Westerhoff as their like an I don't know in like a consultant in a consultancy role, and and he had meetings with every coach at every level to implement the same system and to figure out which players could work on that system and which players could move between the teams and do it well. And that's something that no other team in Mexico does.
You
So
know, it's
that I
really
think
funny,
that should
Martin.
be the focus.
We have a guy that joins us on our podcast occasionally, at Profe, who's he coaches kids in California, and he actually sent a kid to try out in Pachuca last year, and he's a big Hans Westerhoff fan. He would be losing his mind right now with for what you're saying about Pachuca. So, do you see any
Yeah,
other teams, Martin, that are starting to see the light when it comes to their youth development?
I think Santos are doing a good job. Pumas, of course. No, not really. But yeah, I think Santos is pretty good. I think Tigres does well, but the thing is that they just don't have chances to go through because of the incredibly talented side they have. Uh, America are not bad. They have improved because they have renovated all their youth coach staff, which was very bad. And well, obviously Chivas are good enough. I like the problem with Chivas is that they haven't managed to actually develop a top player in a long time. So the young players don't have anyone to actually look up to. Like Saldivar, yeah, right. I don't know. Chofis, well, not really. Like they don't have someone that say that they say like, oh yeah, well, like we developed Memo Choa or Raúl Jiménez is the last one to come. Like seriously, the last top player to come through was Chicharito, and he left in 2010, like 7 years ago.
Hey, Martin, going back to the comment that you made about the players in Europe and the difference that you see that they have to think faster, execute faster, and stuff like that. Not so much technically, the technical abilities, but the way you have to think and react and stuff like that. But if your opinion holds true, what I have difficult, I guess seeing the correlation is that Mexican teams, even when they play your Portugals, even when they play the bigger teams, is that it's not they're not being they're not losing you know they're losing matches because they don't know how to manage the time or the space properly, or because they're pressing when they're not supposed to, they're attacking when they're not supposed to. Like, I mean, give for example the Piojo Mexico Holland game, when Mexico should have beat Holland, but Piojo, with too much time, decided to retreat and let the Dutch play. When it seems like sometimes it's like I guess the word in like no saben jugar los tiempos. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's like it's
Yeah.
more so tactical than more so physical, or how is. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that Mexican coaching is not up to par with the Mexican players. Really, like I remember being at the stadium at that Mexico Holland match and wondering what the hell was he thinking. Took Gio out for Aquino. Like it didn't make any sense. Like it's funny now because Aquino is a top national player and everybody hates Gio, but at the time in 2014, like it didn't make any sense. Gio was not just the best player on the pitch that day, but also he was playing an essential role in like as a link up player between midfielder and the attack, and occupying a central space that left free when Aquino entered and playing on the wing. And but that was Piojo's problem, not Mexico.
Right.
Obviously obviously there was like a fitness problem as well with the Mexican team, because they were completely gassed after 75 minutes. Like everybody's talking about the penalty, but seriously, like the
They
Dutch
couldn't string three passes together. They were exhausted.
Exactly. But yeah, well, that's a problem. But you see the difference between European teams in terms of fitness and Mexican teams. So that also makes sense from that point of view. I really think that Mexican coaches should try to go abroad more and should prepare more. Like before in the past, we always heard about this Mexican coach went to Germany and spent a year there. That's not happening anymore. Like it happened with Jaime Lozano, but in general, it's not happening anymore. And they should try to coach in Europe as well. Like Aguirre did pretty decently, and obviously he like to think he became a better coach. Like at least he didn't take off Luis Hernandez for Ramosita for Luis Hernandez, but. But yeah, I think that match was about coaching more than about the quality of the players or the way they played in general. Because also that Dutch team wasn't that good.
So Martin, are you trying to say the online certificate from Instituto Cruyff is not good enough?
Of course it is. Like this last comment was sponsored by Instituto Cruyff. No, of course not. Like,
Martin, speaking of coaches, I know that you, at least in the past few months, have been loyal to Juan Carlos Osorio. You defend him. You think that he's Mexico's best option right now. What's it going to take for people to understand what Osorio is trying to do?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. Like reaching the el quinto partido, I think that's the only way.
Is that the only thing he can do?
I think so. The thing is, his approach is not conventional. Like let's say that. Like the things he does, even for me, sometimes are bewildering. Like not calling any laterales. It's quite surprising for me. But there's a method to the madness, and as opposed to Palencia, he's a guy who knows what he's doing. The problem for me with Osorio is that he's too stubborn to change, and that concerns me a bit. Like he wants, as like side backs, players who are at least 178 and are good on the air and can also play the ball out cleanly. And well, we don't have that in Mexico. So he's trying to get central defenders. I'm pretty sure that if he plays with a 4-back line, these qualifiers, he's going to play Moreno as a left back because he was no one else. He has. So yeah. He's like he wants area balls because statistically, much difference. Like that managers like Tony Pulis in England have Sam Allardyce careers with set pieces. Alex Ferguson, he was his Manchester United teams were great on set pieces, and it had been a big weakness for Mexico, and it's not anymore. The problem is that when he manages to solve that problem, while he has managed to solve that problem, he's created another one because he doesn't have the players to do that. And well, yeah, and the other problem is that he plays with his line so advanced that he would need central defenders who are faster, but also they have to be good in the air. And Araujo, as good in the air as he is, as good with the ball as he is, he's not fast. So the defense is always exposed. So that's the thing. I understand, for example, Chicharito playing on the left side because his work rate is so big and he's so good at getting the ball back and like linking between midfield and attack that it makes sense to play him there. So no problem with that because he has the player. The thing is, he doesn't have the central defender to play as farther up as he plays, and he doesn't have the side backs to play the kind of game that he wants to play. So for me,
Right, and not only that, he doesn't give his central defenders the cover by putting
yeah,
someone who has more defensive tendencies as a midfielder to cover when that errant pass does go a few feet past the midfielder, or when Moreno cheats out and heads it right to a German, and the German can start an easy counterattack.
that's the same problem. The thing is, what he
But
wants
that's a
is a
massive
play.
problem, Martin. I mean, if the fatal flaw of your scheme is you're going to leave your defenders terribly exposed, then you got to change your scheme. You have to. You have no choice.
The thing is, he doesn't want to leave the defenders exposed. He wants to have a player
Well, we
who,
don't
yeah,
want him to do it either. But yet it happens
no, no,
every
no.
game.
But the
It
thing is,
happens against every
yeah, but
team. It happens against El
yeah,
Salvador.
but the thing is that he wants to have a central midfielder who can play the ball perfectly at his feet, and that's Hector Herrera. The problem is that Hector Herrera is not a defensive midfielder,
right.
and there's no defensive midfielder that can do that. His bet, and I'm pretty sure he's going to play him in one of the games. It's Edson Alvarez, because if Edson Alvarez can actually take that, let's say, dual role, he has a starting spot assured in the World Cup, because that's what he needs. He needs a player who can play, like, be very comfortable, and instead of, like, because what Hector Herrera did in the Confederations Cup, I don't know if you realize that is that when Mexico lost the ball, instead of going back, which is what a defensive midfielder should do, he pressed on. So he left the defenders exposed, and he did it because that's his nature. Like that's what he has
Right.
done his entire career. And I'm pretty sure Osorio told him, but that's not what Herrera should do. So
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember even in the Olympics, when in the first round, when Herrera would do that and leave, poor Salcido, bless his heart.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the same thing would happen.
what
Of
he
course, they
does.
were playing those teams, and then they put Chaton in, and the games would change completely, because Chaton would then give the cover for Herrera to do what he did best. So that, I guess that's what I don't understand about Osorio is, I know that you're a system guy and you have this, but look around at what you got. I mean, that's why I like Tuca's boys. How do you guys play? How do you guys think you play the best? We play best this way. Well, let's go out and do that.
Yeah,
That's what I don't get about Osorio, is that he does not build a team around what he has. He's forcing his guys into what he wants.
well, he's trying. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, he's trying to get the right players for the spots that he's looking for. He's gonna try Edson Alvarez in one of these matches for sure. I don't know if from the start, but for sure he's going to play him there because he believes that he has those characteristics. I don't know who is he going to play as right or left back, but he's going to try to do that as well. Like, he feels that he has the attack figured out, with Chicharito deployed on the left, and also with Tecatito back. But he's still trying to find the players for those spots. And if, for me, that's the thing. If he does, because he's not going to change. That's the thing. Like, he is not. So let's get used to that. If he does manage to find the right players for those spots, Mexico could be very good. If he doesn't, we're going to get out of after the group phase.
Right.
I guess,
yeah.
Martin, my issue is because I've actually talked about the situation with fullbacks, Mexican fullbacks as well, and how dire it is, that position. I think that's the one, like you just mentioned, it is the one probably glaring weakness that Mexico does have from just players' perspective, from a complete lack of depth. Yet that's the one area that's probably one of the most important to make a system work. I just
But the thing is, if you have Madueña as an option, you're lost. Who are you going to play, really?
Or Van Ranking.
Van
yeah,
Ranking.
that's my point.
The
Like,
thing,
I just don't know how just suiting up tall, slow guys reconciles all the issues. I mean, you're just creating new problems. You're not really solving really.
Like
You're going to lose
seriously,
4-0, Dan, but they're not going to score goal on a set piece.
seriously, I don't want to defend Osorio on that one because I agree mostly with you. Like I don't like the fact that he's playing whomever as a fullback. Really, like I'd rather have someone playing center back. Like if he's going to play a fullback, I'd rather have Moreno there than having Alanis. For God's sake, Alanis was terrible, poor guy. And like the next thing he'll do is to play Araujo as a right back. But yeah, I'm not going to defend him for that. Like I understand.
You know, that was the
Yeah,
one
'cause
good thing of that Gold Cup, Martin, was the fact that Edson was probably the only Mexican player that actually came out looking better after that tournament than anybody else. And it's something that we talked about on the show that if he does keep it up, then yeah, he absolutely has a place in the World Cup team confirmed. And you're pushing that even further out, saying if he fills that role that Osorio is looking for, then he's going to start.
Wait,
in
are you
Russia
saying
next year.
that? Are you saying that Kubo didn't impress? What tournament did you see? No, I agree. I agree. Like and that's something that actually pissed me off about the coverage of the Gold Cup. Like the Mexican press never understood that and Osorio was pretty clear about it. Like yeah. Well, it would have been good if we won it, but that tournament was meant for the Mexican national team to see who could which of these players could actually play in the big leagues, and the answer was that it was only Edson. And it's sad but true, but neither Pizarro, Elias was good, and Elias is now in this call-up. But neither Pizarro nor Cesar Montes nor Cubo, of course, neither of the strikers, Saldivar, like
Pineda.
Orbelin.
Yeah, no, Orbelin is there. I didn't like him that much in the Gold Cup, but whatever. But neither of them was impressive enough, and that's the truth. And that should end the debate, that ridiculous debate fueled by Martinoli, that the Liga MX players are better than the ones in Europe, because they're not. They're really not. They lost to Jamaica. And yeah, losing to Germany 4-1 is bad, but losing to Jamaica in the Gold Cup semifinals is worse. So yeah,
And Jamaica sent an
just not
alternate
good
team.
enough.
And Jamaica also fielded an alternate team as well, so we can't lose.
I guess my issue with the whole thing, while poor, I would rather at least give those center backs some coverage and at least put some guys that could at least track back and hustle back quickly to try to give the team a split second longer to set up.
I understand. Like yeah. Look, to be honest, I like Osorio's way of thinking in midfield. The only thing is that you have to find a player, and I hope Edson is the one. If not, yeah, he should. Like
So you think Edson's going to be playing at defensive mid, not right back?
Whom, Edson?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think about against Panama, but maybe against Costa Rica if we're already through. The concern, Osorio's concern about Edson is that he's too young and too inexperienced, and he might make mistakes because of that. But yeah, that's the role that he has envisioned for him. Like he's not, well, as far as I know, then he does whatever. But he doesn't see him as a center back. He sees him as a defensive midfielder in a link up role, the same that Rafa played against Portugal.
Well, from your lips to God's ears. I mean, I hope that certainly is what happens, because when Mexico doesn't have that true defensive midfielder, as we've seen against the better teams, it gets really ugly really quickly.
Well, let's remember that in the 7-0, Dueñas played there. It's not that there wasn't one. It's just that the one that he, Dueñas or Molina, I don't remember anymore. But the one that he chose was really bad.
Yeah. A lot of guys had bad games that day.
Yeah, and we don't have that's the other thing. We don't have good defensive midfielders now. Like, don't come to me by saying Gallito for God's sake. Like, we don't have a good defensive midfielder. Neither Dueñas nor Molina nor anyone else. Like
That's why I
we
had
don't
such
have a
high
player
hopes
that
for Chaton. I thought Chaton would be the guy. He'd be the captain of the team right now.
I know,
You know,
I
it
know,
was that was his destiny.
I
His
know, but he was
destiny.
just too chaotic. Like he couldn't like stick to a disciplined role, neither on or off the pitch. But yeah, it was a shame, really.
Yeah, I mean, he would have fit that role perfect. Now, Martin, I know that you're in Mexico right now. You write for FIFA.com and Medio Tiempo, and you also have you've done courses in the past to help
Yeah.
folks to become if they want to get into the sports journalism business. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's something that you're getting ready to relaunch as well. And you do it in English and in Spanish. Is that correct?
Spanish and English, yeah, both now. In Spanish, I'm launching it with Kerim Ruiz, who's another Mexican, very good Mexican journalist, and in English with Ben Hayward, who's the main
And a
correspondent
fantastic fantasy football player, I might add, Karim.
Ah, really?
He's a very strong fantasy football player. Yes.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic there, but
No, not at all, man. I'd go up. That's a very competitive league we have. The Exile League. It's fun. I enjoy it.
I have to restart again. Damn it, I haven't. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll do it tomorrow.
We were in the middle of a plug. I apologize. Please keep plugging away.
Okay, so yeah. Well, we're relaunching the course. So anyone who's interested, just follow me on Twitter, Martin DLP, and you'll get all the information very very soon. But it's going to be very good, really the best sports journalism in course in the world, and I am the expert in sports journalism courses. So please.
Well, that's why we wanted to have you on the show, because
No, I was doing my city Trump impression, but yeah. It's I think it's going to be good. Like we've had a very good alumni. I think that's the way you say it. That have been that went on to work in national media. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, Ben's a good guy. I met him at the 2006 World Cup. But was he a journal or was he a photographer back then?
He was an editor.
Oh, Ben?
Ben? No. He was an editor. He was the international, the guy in charge of the international section in La Afición at that time.
But he would edit my stuff though, Martin.
No,
Can't say he enjoyed it too much.
No, yeah. When I was getting my press when I was getting my press passes, I ran into him and I met the guy. He's a really nice guy.
Now, Martin, you've also written a book. Well, you've written several books, but you have a book right now, Entrevistador, that is is just below Devil's Bargain, I believe, on the bestseller list. The book about Steve Bannon, but you've had, obviously, working for FIFA.com, the opportunity to interview the world's most famous athletes because of the which has to be just. As a fan of the sport, an incredible experience. But I'm sure that you obviously you take your role very seriously. So congratulations on that book as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah. The whole idea of the book was that I was lucky enough to interview Messi, Ronaldo, Zlatan, Guardiola, like all of the big names, bar Mourinho, because I haven't been able to, but I will at some point. And I realized that there haven't been so many. There have been interviews with all of these guys, but there haven't been so many journalists that have interviewed them all. So the whole idea was to talk about my experience talking to these guys and like shedding a bit more light on how they are off of the pitch. And I think it's an entertaining book, and like most people who have read it have enjoyed it. So yeah. I mean,
and I'm sure Picolin will be in volume 2, right? I mean, I know that it was a very tough cut for you to cut Picolin out of your book.
But you know what the problem is, that I never managed to interview Picolin because he was so big. Like I tried, but I was so starstruck. Articulator word. It was very bad. It's like if you meet Miss Universe and you try to actually do something with her and you just don't find the words and you stay there looking like a tool. That happened to me with both Picolins at different points in time.
I understand that because I have an opportunity to be around athletes as well, with the work that I do in TV, and it's never really bothered. I just these guys come in their cars and stuff, so you get to see them, talk to them, etc. But the only time I've ever had that stupid look on my face was when Derek Jeter was walking by in the tunnel. I was at the Texas Rangers Stadium in Arlington, and I just because I'd never it was Derek Jeter. So, but I can imagine that if I had seen it was like Picolín one-on-one with Derek Jeter, I wouldn't even know what to do. So I
Well,
certainly understand.
I had
let
that
me tell you
moment.
something.
Wait, I'm going to cut you there real quick, Martin. I had that moment, but now it feels like the Gordiwapa of the group. My moment was with Bravo, dude. I was just starting, by the way. I was just starting to do this.
Martin, Martin,
Let me tell you something. Like the only time I've seen Derek Jeter with that look was when he met Picolín. So
Well, there you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So you can see how big he is. Like well, it will happen again. Like they say life doesn't give you second chances, but I think in this case it will for me, and I already will know what to say.
Hey, Martin, I got another question for you. Which, from all the other coaches that you've interviewed, which one, did you interview and come out of that interview, saying that you learned a lot more? Like, wow, because sometimes when you see or read interviews, it's like they're saying the same redundant stuff. Which coach and which journalist do you like really admire that, when you read their stuff, it's like, wow, I didn't see that, or I didn't know that, or for you, like, for example, for me, I like listening to Diego Latorre, ex Cruz Azul player. I think he works in Argentina now, but like when I listen to him, I really like how he explains the games and stuff like that. Like for you, which coach and which journal do you like to listen to, or do you recommend?
Well, you're gonna kill me, really, but that's one of the reasons why I like Osorio, because he's super.
Sorry.
He's super good at explaining. For me, the best two coaches that I've interviewed in those terms are Osorio and La Volpe, because they are really good at explaining, and they really feel they need to explain. Like I interviewed Capello, and it was a great interview, but it wasn't like Capello was telling me his tactical secrets. With La Volpe and Osorio, you understand. Like I have this conversation that I cannot release, unfortunately, with Osorio, that in which he explains his system, and he's amazing. He's really good, really, really good. I understood why players love him, because he's extremely good at explaining. That doesn't mean that he's a great coach per se, but he is very good. And La Volpe is amazing. La Volpe was the dream of every journalist. Like you interviewed him.
El fútbol algunas veces, en mi punto de vista, es como un ajedrez.
Exactly.
No. Wait, Martin, was this Capello Carrillo or Fabio Capello?
Carrillo, of course.
Wait,
him and the witch.
No, Martin, you surprised me, because I thought you were gonna say Bora when he sat on your lap at the World Cup. I would have learned a lot.
I agree with with what you say there with Osorio. I guess the problem with a bunch of us is from the talking points to the execution. But I see what you're saying, because he is one of those coaches that likes to talk as to the process of what's going on. And obviously I've been also spoke with La Volpe and stuff like that, and he's also like that too. But any coaches in Europe that you kind of like sitting down with and like they really explain things to you?
Well, interviewing Guardiola was like, it was 10 minutes. It was amazing. But I think in that sense, the best one is Lillo. Lillo is very good. The thing with Lillo is that his explanations are so complex that you understand like a quarter of what he's saying. The rest, seriously. He's explaining, and you're like, what the hell?
Are we talking about the same Lilo that said that the most entertaining league in the world is Liga MX?
Yeah, the same one. Yeah. Okay. He's crazy, like in a good way, but yeah, you don't understand half what he's saying, because it's so complex. It's not because it doesn't make sense. It's because like his terms and the way he says them, they're just very, very difficult. And in terms of journalists, to be honest, I'm not very fond of Spanish-speaking sports journalists. I like the American classics. I like I don't know. The things that the things that Norman Mailer wrote, or or I like, I don't know, I enjoy more reading American news, and mostly
I'm
not football related.
I'm actually with you on that, because one of the things that, growing up, one of the things that would always drive me nuts, and the guys, on the days here will let you know that I'm kind of like the book nerd, stats and the
Yeah,
history and stuff like that.
we
One
call
of the
his warehouse the Citadel.
Yeah, I got a
It
huge
has
collection, dude, of like old magazines going back from like the 30s and 40s and 50s and stuff like that. So anyhow, but bothered me as to how they covered Mexican soccer, is that, like, analysis. Like I was used to like NFL analysis, where they break down every little field and what players did and stuff like that. And one of the things that, like, going back to like how they would break down Mexican analysis is le pesa la camiseta, like,
Exacto, no le echó ganas.
yeah, that, yeah.
no le puso huevos.
Yeah.
Exacto.
La Cruz Azul.
Did they say that in the 30s, Ron? Is that what the headline of the on the primer plano there say no le puso huevos
Not in so much terms, but
back in the 30s? Yeah.
for many times, it's just,
It,
it's
it
just
was
like
it was it was they play like goats,
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you play the goat soundbite, John?
Oh, I
Please?
can't, because that's not a really Chiva contra Chiva, but
What?
I mean, I can always give you a. Yeah, there's always that. There's always that. Now, Martin, it sounds like frankly, it sounds like you're having a lot of fun down there, and we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. But
Is Martin in el bar?
yeah, we do want to let you go with one last question. So, gun to your head,
Yes.
how far does Mexico go to, or how far do they go in the World Cup with Osorio?
Okay, I'll answer that like the way I think, really.
Okay.
And it's not. I guess you're not gonna like it, but I think it all depends on the draw.
Sure.
That's
Well,
it.
that makes
And
that makes absolute sense.
with every coach, with any coach, not just Osorio, it all depends on the draw. If we get an easy group or an easy cross in the round of 16, we're making it to the quinto partido. I think the team has enough quality to do it. If we don't, we're not handed an extremely complicated team. Like in terms of quality, I think we are between the 10th and 15th strongest team in the world. But the thing is, if you play Argentina, or if you play Germany, or if you play Spain in the round of 16, we're not going to make it. Or if we get a Grupo de la Muerte, or a decent enough group.
So
it
the
would
minimum has to
come
only one
down
good team in the group, because if there's two good teams, Mexico's not going to make it out of the group.
I think so. Because, and seriously, it's with Osorio or with whomever. Like bring Guardiola on. Like we don't have enough quality to think that we can guarantee. We have a guarantee of making it to the quinto partido. I think it all comes down to luck, and we have been very lucky enough in the group stage, but not in the round of 16 in a long time. Like since
And
the
there are
US
some
in 2002. We have had,
and there are some
extremely
scary
difficult,
teams that are outside the top 8 right now in the
Yeah.
FIFA rankings. Very scary teams.
Yeah.
Teams you do not want to have anything to do with. And then my other last question is, okay, say that Panama throws the ice spear right through the Osorio train, and that they lose that game and things completely fall apart, yet they make it to the World Cup, that Panzazo, and he's gone. You need a guy, so you know what, just take us to the World Cup. Yeah, who's your guy?
Tuca. Always.
That is, now see, normally, if you would have said something else, I would have.
¡Cállese, carajo!
But you answered correctly. Tuca, no, it would be Tuca, right? It would have to be Tuca.
Wait, I have one thing before Martin leaves, and I wanted to ask you about. It seems like players transfers is getting out of hand in Europe. The amount of money they are paying.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a trend that's gonna continue, or?
I think the bubble's gonna burst at some point soon. Not soon enough. Like it's going to keep on going for a couple of years, but it's completely out of any like logical reasoning. The only thing is that TV stations are still paying a lot of money for clubs, and in the Premier League and in the other leagues they have shakes. But there will be a point in which it happened already in the 90s that transfer fees went up really high and then went crashing down because it wasn't sustainable. I think it's going to be the case again, but not yet. Not yet. We'll still see a couple of huge transfer fees paid in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it surprised me seeing.
Picolin picked the wrong year to retire, man. He could really catch it.
He could have gone to China for.
No, he was going to Real Madrid, I know, but he had a problem on his knee.
Fair enough. Martin, thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate you taking the time to hop on and chat with us tonight, especially being down on the coast where your hurricane's gone and ours is just starting on Fridays. So, but we do appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much again.
No worries. My pleasure.
Well, again, we really do appreciate it. Martin del Palacio joins us on show 100 here on the CantinaMX podcast. Do want to thank him for hopping on. Gentlemen.
It's great talking to Martin.
Oh, we're still talking.
Bye-bye.
All right. I want to make sure he fell off before he had that open mic experience. I don't know if that's ever happened to y'all. Have y'all ever had an open mic experience?
No.
Ron,
I didn't mean to laugh when he said, "Oh, sorry." I just thought it was funny. It's like when he says, "You guys are gonna hate me."
I have experienced an open mic when friend butt dialed.
Yeah.
A girl reached the voicemail and started talking about her the way guys do.
Oh.
Sometimes.
But not on this show.
She was a good sport, and she turned it around on him and gave him a good razzing.
Well, good for her.
Oh, it was classic. It was fantastic. Yes.
Did she happen to record that too?
No, she just went on and gave us like impersonations and.
That's awesome. Good for her.
It was really good. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. So that was Martin del Palacio who joined us for the past hour and a half. A guy who has had an opportunity to, in addition to see what he's seen with his eyes, he's actually had a chance to talk to some of these guys. So it was a very very interesting and entertaining perspective. It was we had that worked out pretty well for us on our 100th show. So we really thank Martin for that. Well, the list did come out, gentlemen, and there was for the games next week, really no surprises other than the fact that there are no wing backs that are called up. And Dan, that really seems to bother you.
The fact that he's not calling him, to me, it's just the alarming thing is that just the lack of players to choose from, and not so much. I don't necessarily agree with Osorio's approach at this point with how he's addressing that position, but I definitely sympathize with the fact that he is having to choose from two bad options. Play guys that aren't that good in that position, but naturally do play the position, or play guys that are just better, who probably have little to no business playing in that position.
Well, what Martin said about Edson was pretty interesting, but I don't know. It just seems like again, if your biggest flaw of your system is that it leaves your central defenders in a terrible situation, and it seems like you'd want to address that as quickly as possible instead of just hoping that.
And I don't think every guy on the field needs to be 6'4".
No.
I mean, I get it. Like, you want to favor some of the taller guys. That's cool. But do it where you can. And just like, all right, not every guy put that shorty in front of the net, and get in the way of a potential shot.
Like a Pony Ruiz.
Most often than not, guys, new management means new coach. We just have
I thought about that too.
Dennis to close and
Torrado.
Torrado. So
Gerardo Torrado. So a Chivas guy and a Pumas guy are coming in to.
You lack style points. We're bringing in
Now. What are the positions? Because I have trouble understanding what the hell their roles
So
are.
Teclos is in charge of all national teams from the senior team down to the U13. He is, and if I'm not mistaken, and I'll talk about this in a second, but that's his role. And then Torrado is basically the go-between between Osorio and the FMF for the net, just strictly for the national team. He's the
is he the enforcer? He's a Joe
exactly.
Pesci.
He's the bad cop. Yeah, he is officially the devil's advocate. That's gonna say, is that really what, But yeah, so and it's gonna be Gerardo Torrado's gonna do that. Started in November, which coincidentally would be when presumably Mexico would have qualified for the World Cup.
I'm thinking though Torrado's gonna be. I'm pretty sure he's gonna get a feel of the water before he starts doing stuff. I think if the players are still, if he thinks that the players are still in, I doubt they pull the trigger.
Hey, come on, Dan. This is Mexico, man. Some of this
I know,
stuff's
but I'm just
already
saying.
decided.
I know, but I'm assuming Torrado's there with good intentions to want to improve the national team. So if that's the case, well, I get it that if that's what they're ultimately wanting to do, but I'm just saying it doesn't. I don't know if the players are really bought in, that could potentially break the team and make it even worse.
Who did Martin say? I mean, he lost. Look, he just lost one of his. You could say one of his backers, which was Marquez. He's not gonna have Marquez right there to rally the troops for him. And Martin mentioned some dude that doesn't like. Who was he saying? He mentioned a player that doesn't like Osorio.
Oh, Paul Aguilar.
But Aguilar, who's hardly even.
Oh, never mind. I thought it was like a Vela or something.
No, it was Aguilar, who's pretty much out already anyway.
Well,
he is someone that I think definitely needs to be on the team, just because, especially from what happened in the Confederations Cup. I mean, even if he's not your favorite player, he's got to be better than what they threw out there eventually.
Well, look, if the FMF, like say, the team doesn't impress, it's a possibility just given how some of the things going on,
Yeah.
Layun dropping form, Marco Fabian out. Some of these other guys haven't been at the top of their game.
I'm just thinking the longer they drag this out, and if they do fire him, the worse it's going to be. I think the window where they could have and should have is come and gone.
So now they're stuck with it.
No,
I think they should just. Well, no, I'm not saying that they haven't. I'm not certain that they won't. I'm just saying that I don't think they should at this point. I'm like, if you stuck with them this long, might as well just stick it out. It's unfortunate though, because you could see the pressures clearly there by looking at the call-up list.
Yeah, that actually.
Some people were kind of disappointed.
I'm pretty sure the plan was, well, if they had a good Gold Cup, then it probably would have been the Gold Cup team that would have been playing these games. But they didn't play well, and
a lot of the call-ups are from the Gold Cup, though.
It's kind of a 2/3.
Yeah, but they're going to play a bit part. They're going to play mostly a bit part. The main skeleton of the team is there. Although the most of the European-based players are there. And I wouldn't be surprised with just simply the inclusion of Tecatito, especially against CONCACAF competition. I'm expecting Mexico to probably look good. Fool's gold.
I mean, against Panama, the only way Panama is going to score in that game is on the set piece. So you're guaranteed that they're going to start all 4 tree trunks in the back. And he probably didn't have to worry so much about Panama possessing. So that we may not see. Maybe this would be a good game for Edson to play in the middle, or they may not even have a need for that because it'll just.
Well, I think with the whole Rafa saga thing going, it puts a lot of pressure on the kid because I think the spot's his.
Well, again, it's
because it's either going to probably be him or Diego Reyes.
Oof.
I'm okay with Diego Reyes. I'm actually thinking
he's okay, but I mean he's not. I mean seriously, he just doesn't. He's a lot like Jesus Zavala in that position. It's just a big tall guy who, never really. I don't know. Just doesn't seem to have. He's serviceable, but he's not exceptional. And I think that what the common thread of really, really, really good teams, especially at the international level, is that every the top 10 teams, every single one has a world-class defensive midfielder, and Mexico just doesn't have that. Now they have Rafa, when he was absolutely a world-class defensive midfielder, and I know that we've had discussions on this show for as long as we've been on it, that if you can't beat out Rafa at that position, then Rafa has to play it because he's so good at it. You don't have, if that's why your 38-year-old has to do, then that's what's going to have to happen because it's so important. So there we go. Well, I got to tell you, I think that was probably out of the 100 shows we've done, that was probably the most Pumas talk we've ever had on the show. We had a good 20-minute Pumas talk.
I wonder if it was methodically planned, John.
It wasn't methodically. I mean, I just, it was. I always like to ask our guests, who they follow, and with the news that happened this week, and and someone who obviously is as connected to the team as Martinez, it would be a good time to find. Pumas is an important team for Mexico. Mexico, just like Mexico needs America to play well and Guadalajara to play well, Mexico needs Pumas to play well, because if Pumas is playing well, that means that they have really good players. So Pumas in the big picture of Liga MX is a very important team with what they bring to the table.
Also for the league and for having rivalries, just having 3 teams in the F.
Yeah, and they have the coolest
proximity.
uniform in the world of sports, and that is not debatable. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but yeah.
Punto y aparte.
Liga MX can use more rivalries, especially like intercity stuff like that. Right. We sort of dismissed it a while back.
Because there used to be upwards of 6 or 7 teams, and there were 4 teams in Guadalajara. When I was a kid, it was Atlas, Guadalajara, UDG, and ADG. All 4 of them were in Liga MX. And at one point, there was like Jalisco too. So there were 5 teams from Guadalajara that played and then in Mexico it was.
They're all played in the same stadium, pretty much.
Yeah, it was Pumas and Cruz Azul, and America, of course, and Atlético Español and Atlante. So there were 5, and then I'm sure, and then Toluca's right after Zacatecas was right around there. Well, not Zacatecas, Zacatepec.
Atlético Español was Necaxa or?
Yeah, that was Necaxa.
Yeah. Oh, that was the other Ron. I don't know if you follow this guy. You would really like to follow this. Like to follow this guy if you don't. The Historia Liga MX guy on Twitter. He posts some really, really cool pit. Like he did a whole thing of Necaxa's history this week, a couple of days ago, from when they started out all the way, and he told the story with each picture. It was really cool.
But that's the one that they actually lost fans, right? When they changed the name.
Yes. Yeah.
People didn't like the ties to the.
Well, they lost to be honest, they lost the fans when Necaxa did not want to be professional, and they quit for like 7-8 years. Necaxa did not exist at all. So if memory serves me, they came back when Asturias and Club España basically forfeited from the league because of national sentiments, if I'm not mistaken. So Necaxa came into the picture, but it was never the same team. It would be like the equivalent of Chivas, just no longer exist, and then they pick up 8 years, 9 years down the road. Obviously, they're not going to have the same fan base. But you're right, they did lose some fans when they did the whole Necaxa Atlético de Español, because if memory serves me, what they tried to do with Atlético de Español was if memory serves me, is some of the guys from Asturias and Club España, they tried to start basically give the Atlético Español a more like a Spanish vibe, if you will. Like if you look at the logo, el toro, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But it didn't click.
Yeah, the uniforms were ugly. Black shorts and a white shirt.
Yeah.
Well, those a lot of those going back to the owners, they were still around. So like
Now, if you notice Celaya, also the toro and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, and
there's also
Toros Nesa.
There's also there are also ties to Spanish, Spanish ownership and Spanish money.
Yeah.
The Celaya.
Man, when I was a kid, the team in Nesa weren't toros; they were coyotes.
Yeah, because I think that's what Nezahualcóyotl mean.
Yeah, that's the city of the coyote.
Starving coyote or something like that. Ironically. But yeah,
Right.
You're right. And they added the bull because the owners are Spaniards. Toro.
Well, boys, we have a few minutes left here. We had another jornada over the past couple of days. We talked a little America. Joel, Chivas still no reason to.
Oh yeah, we didn't get to the Chivas talk because Martin.
Yeah. Oh my God, man,
right when I was
I'm surprised Profe didn't. His ears weren't just scorching hot when Martin was talking about Westerhoff and Pachuca and the whole bit.
He couldn't handle his connection dropped. He couldn't handle too much bandwidth.
His mind just went happy time explosion for sure.
It was like that.
It's Westerhoff.
What's the David Lynch movie where that happens? Is it the Videodrome where the dude's head explodes and it's a GIF, one of those GIFs that circulate. Maybe that's what happened to I'm sorry, Joel, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, well, just as expected, John. We were talking about Chivas was gonna struggle, and they were very lucky against Santos. I was watching the game, and I was surprised Santos just how many opportunities they missed.
They forced it up.
Yeah, I mean that goal was that missed penalty was key in the game. If they would have Pucho would have scored that, it would have been a heavy loss
for Chivas.
Yeah. They would have forced them to open up, or they would have. Either way, either Chivas is forced to go more on the attack, or they just sit back. Either case, they were going to look bad. But good thing for Chivas is Pelado returns.
Wide right.
Pelado returns next week.
Well, sorry to interrupt you, Holly, but also wanted to talk. The Little League Mexico team, they advanced. I don't know if you guys caught the game or watched a little bit of the game.
I saw it.
No.
Beat Canada.
I've been following it.
Baseball.
Yeah. So I mean, if nobody watched it. Nobody keeping up with it.
With what? I'm sorry.
Little League World Series, Mexico.
Oh, all I saw was that they advanced to the semifinals. I haven't seen what happened after that.
Yeah, the finals of the international. I guess they're going to face Japan.
Wow, and we're sure that Japan has, they're all 12 and under.
I think so.
Yeah. just checking. Sometimes they have, 18-year-olds sneaking in there.
Yeah.
That's no. Hopefully they'll persevere. And that team is from Reynosa, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. That's why I wanted to bring them up. Son del Valle.
Yeah. And that's your tierra, isn't it, Ron? Isn't that where your family's from? The northern part there, no?
Well, Well, my dad was born. My dad was born in Texas, but he was like, right there, Reynosa. I mean, we spent a lot of time in Reynosa.
Is your dad a Valley boy?
I wouldn't say. I mean, he left the Valley because he went off to Tampico.
That's not what I'm at. Was he born in the Valley?
Well, I mean, yeah, he was born in the Valley, but like I said,
what city?
Where was he born? The same city that that Tom Landry was born in.
Mission.
Mission, yeah, Mission.
If you ever get a chance, Ron, there's a comedian, and probably all that listen out there, in the Valley. But although if you're in the Valley right now, everyone is bracing for this massive storm that's coming. But there's a comedian, Raymond Orda, is a Valley comedian. He's hilarious, man. I highly recommend him if you still have family in the Valley or know how the folks in the Valley are.
Yeah,
it's very funny.
Actually, believe it or not, I miss it, man.
I keep telling my wife I love the Valley. I think the Valley is a very comfortable place to live.
I didn't really like it that much as a kid because I just didn't think there was that much to do. But like you said, like growing up, it's just a little more laid back, and the times that I've gone back, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it is hotter than hell in summer. There's no doubt about that. But the closer you get to the coast, it's it gets a little cooler, and Padre is really nice. But the Valley sustains it. I mean, they have it's one of it's the fruit bread basket, the fruit basket of the country. So you have all this amazing produce that comes out of the Valley.
Yeah. Every time we would make the trip from Houston to the Valley, I remember going back, we would get a lot of produce, right by the fields,
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then they have in McAllen and I forget, but they do have this just gigantic warehouses where they bring the produce comes in from Mexico and then theirs goes out. They do all right down in the Valley. It's a good little spot.
Have to disagree.
What's up, Beto?
Reynosa La Tierrosa, man. That place is dusty, ugly.
I know.
The whole border area is avoidable. You got to avoid it.
I've told you this. I've told you this before. I don't believe it because I've never seen it because Reynosa to me is not that pretty. But my uncles that a lot older, they swear that there was a time when Reynosa was a nicer, cleaner town. I was like, when?
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. My grandmother tells me stories of she grew up when I grew up. When she lived in Mexico City, when she first moved there, this is back in the late 20s, early 30s. She lived like 2 blocks from the Zócalo. And she said there was no smog. It said the city was, maybe 1 million people. And I'm thinking, wow, that must have been absolutely amazing to live in Mexico City at that time. So I'm sure Reynosa at one point was very, very quaint. Very, but the reality is, at least in Texas, I can't speak for California, but in Texas, the border towns, unfortunately, just aren't very pretty. Or at least the immediate proximity of to the border, those portions of the towns are actually, I mean, there's nothing to them. It's just a bunch of stores and restaurants.
Guys, it was a great show. I got to leave. It was really fun today, guys. A lot of fun talking about Pumas.
Yeah, we don't get to talk Pumas. Well, thank you very much, Ron, for joining us, and thanks again for being a part of these 100 or so shows that we've done. So we do. Did we get a new anthem for the Centennial? Was it plagiarized? You mean for America? No,
Yeah,
I think it's still the same one. Let's see. I think. Let me. I'm hitting the wrong button here, but no, I think it's still the. I think that they still play this. So don't you hear it every time they score a goal?
Oh God, that's horrible.
Is that what they play?
Oh no, that was horrible.
Oof. Yeah, that was pretty rough. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. Later.
I got a new sound clip, an outro sound clip for us, though.
What you got?
You guys might recognize it whenever. I'll play it whenever we're done.
Oh, you could play it now.
Okay, you want to hear it?
We gotta change the ratio. So much better than D4 with the NHL. So let's change the ratio. A little Mexican paste man down at Western. And then it's an Ennis. Oh, and then it's an Ennis. He bangs.
You guys hear that or not?
Well, God bless the English. They're always so. See, that's what Joel has been talking about for years. Is that why can't Mexico fans who are very creative? Why can't they come up with
And they're using one of our own
original
songs.
songs?
They're
Yeah.
using one of our they're using a Mexican song to do a song about Chicharito. All we could do is the puto chant.
And frankly, and cheers to the Tigres fans for doing the Hey Jude Gignac bit, because I mean I can't tell you when was the last time I ever heard fans sing like that to a player in Mexico. It just doesn't happen.
I missed that, John. I'm gonna have to YouTube it or something.
They even did.
You haven't seen that, Joel? Oh, dude,
Nah.
yeah. Look up Hey Jude Gignac, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and you know what, the creativity is there. We played in one of the earlier podcasts a song from this Monterrey-based band called Tres Tristes Tigres, and then they did a song about the Canta y No Llores, but about America.
Right.
And it's very clever how they, their wordplay. And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff like that the fans could do, but for some reason, we're stuck with the whole puto thing to the point where it's like they're calling it cultural, and it's saying a part of the culture,
And Frank, and then one thing that we should, I used the puto chant when we first started off as Cachirules, but I was doing it to call us that, because I would say our name and then they would say it, so I was like making fun of us. But after it's I personally don't have an issue with it, but the whole problem with the chant is that, as we mentioned a few weeks ago, it's like playing a game till someone loses an eye and someone has lost an eye, and it is offensive, and it's it has to stop, and that's just the bottom line.
I'm not sure. Maybe you guys know. Are they doing this in the female league?
Were they all puta?
I think someone.
I heard it from one of the games.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned they did. I don't know if it was really loud or really prevalent or in multiple games, but I heard it was.
Well, apparently they were trying to do the thing at the. So Tigres is bribing their fans. If you don't yell puto during the game, then we'll go renovate a school. So America tried it last night, and let's just say no school's going to get renovated. And Pumas, and Pumas, guess what? They just stopped doing it. So Pumas fans didn't need to be bribed. They just like, you know what?
They already go to school, right, John?
Yeah. Pardon me?
Pumas fans are already going to school.
That's right. Yeah. So they just they put a stop to it, and yeah. So hopefully other teams will realize that, and again, the minute, and you know what? I didn't even realize that Pumas wasn't doing it, because it's so. What's the word I'm looking for? I forget what the word I'm looking for. Anyway, but the fact that it hasn't happened and you just don't notice it. People, as soon as this thing goes away, no one is going to notice it, and they're going to forget about it. They're going to forget it ever happened. It'll just be gone. It'll be like dust in the wind, just done.
And speaking of creativity, this is another one that was sort of pretty creative after the World Cup.
Nos sacaron del mundial con sus penaltis fingidos y malicia natural.
Remember that one? That little girl.
Yeah.
She was cussing.
I have to admit, I liked Hitler. Hitler ranting about it was my favorite.
From the movie clip.
Downfall, or whatever that movie is, where he has his final tirade. That's one I thought that was pretty good. It was very very enjoyable. So Santos doesn't get a win. Chivas doesn't get a win. Pumas. And then have you officially have you changed Gatos Chiquis? Are you officially Tigres the rest of the way?
Not.
It's okay. I know you're the crazy cat man, so you can.
That's where I appease my depression. Is I'll go watch Tigres tie America and Azteca, but I still keep an eye out for a Pumas win, and hope is still there. But yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I do enjoy watching Tigres win because I think it just means so much to Tuca when they win that it makes me happy that Tuca's happy when Tigres wins. So I can understand that, Chiquis.
And I'm just amazed at the money. Apparently, they're getting some other midfielder to replace Pizarro. And then,
dude, what are you talking about? They're the second largest cement company in the world.
I know, it's just crazy. All these players they're just bringing in. That guy, Ecuador dude, is scoring goals like crazy.
Oh, Valencia,
yeah. And so yeah, the team is pretty good. Still couldn't beat America, but they're on top. Or Monterrey that's going to be a really good one also because Monterrey is doing awesome.
Yeah, there are definitely some teams in Liga MX that are finally living up to their billing, and then others that are playing down to what they really have. But you're right, though. I mean, yeah, Monterrey has. I mean, I actually watched a good portion of their game against Toluca last night, and they looked. That's another place that we know the Tamalera. Once it gets going, it is that could be a very intimidating place to play, and it's they have a good team. They play well.
I want to see when they play. Maybe I might try to go.
Ooh, that'd be a hell of a. That would be very interesting to see. Do a Clásico trip.
Well, this is the last game. 18 November.
It's the last game of the season?
Yeah.
Oof. Wow.
So that would be nice.
It'll be nice and clear. You don't want to go in August. Better in November if you're going to go to Monterrey.
I'll have to write that down.
Well, gentlemen, I guess we should probably wrap it up here on our 100th show. Again, a big thanks to Martín del Palacio for joining us earlier. Really appreciate him taking the time and gave us a lot of, and everybody that's listening, a lot of insight into the minds of certain players, coaches. So we do appreciate him coming on and chatting with us. Chiquis, thanks for setting this up. It took me about 5 minutes to figure out which button to push, but I got it figured out and I launched, and we were in good shape. So thank you for that.
Well, cool. Yeah, good to see that. Was no problems.
Yeah, and you don't want to give us your little sayonara DJ horn before you leave? Like you tell it. So you need to when you tell a joke, Chiquis, you need to just drop that every time you tell a joke.
I don't have it queued up.
You need to get that program, Chiquis. I'm telling you. Oh, here we go.
Ready whenever you get your last outro person.
Oh yeah, please, thank you. Okay. Joel, I don't know if Dan's with us, but we'll go with Joel. Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. Good show. Hopefully Chivas will finally pull one out.
Yes, they play. They host Querétaro, so it's a good. Could be a good slump buster.
Keep winning because, but Querétaro is one of those teams that if they keep losing, then they're gonna chop another young Mexican coach in Lozano.
Well, they are unpredictable. They started with a win against America away, so who knows?
That's true.
They pull it off again, But
that would be.
But yeah,
and it's not like Chivas has been killing it at home. They lost to Puebla.
Yeah. Yeah, they look pretty bad against Santos despite the draw. So yeah, interesting. But John, here's more shows, hopefully under the same name.
Well, thanks for that, Joel. And obviously we've had a lot of fun on these shows, and it's something that we will continue to do in the weeks and years forward as we press on here on the CantinaMX podcast. Dan, are you still with us, or are you?
I am. I'm still here.
Okay, good. I just wanted, because it was muted. I didn't know if you had to go tend to your fatherly duties. But thanks again for joining us, Dan, and really appreciate everything you've done for us over the past 100 shows as well, and moving forward for the next milestone.
Absolute pleasure. Woo!
Wow.
Thanks for that. No, this has been a lot of fun, and we really, again, we want to thank all of y'all who have listened to us in these previous shows, and hopefully you'll continue to listen to us as we move on through the calendar year and then the next year for the World Cup and beyond that as well. My name is John Jagu. It's been a real pleasure to do these shows with you guys and all your.
One last thank you too to our special guest.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank Martin del Palacio for joining us again. Really enjoyed talking to him, and it's it is rare that a player of such stature like Picolín is noticed by such few people. But obviously, like I said in the beginning of the show, Martin is a man of impeccable taste and good judgment. So the fact that he holds Picolín in such high regard is is a testament. It really speaks a lot about his character, I think. So we do appreciate him coming on. But we appreciate y'all coming on. You can listen to this show and our previous shows, our previous 99 shows on iTunes and as well as in Google Play. And you can listen to us every Thursday night live on YouTube. And of course, you can download these, as we mentioned, from iTunes and Google Play. My name is John Jagu. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll talk to you again next week.